less than simple chronology or the succession of dates and facts. That's because of advice that has come down to us from our founders. And that advice is to let your life preach. For us, the witness and message that can be discerned from our living speaks more truly and profoundly than words alone. I believe this is particularly true of Kat, and I'm grateful to Micah for letting me adapt his custom for your moral service here. So these words today are about a life, and that life is the real message. I'll begin this reading, and then two others will take up later sections. When Kat Royal was born on January 24th, 1982, it was Super Bowl Sunday weekend. And the story is told that her father, Scott Clark, wanted to name her Joe Montana. That gives. After the star quarterback in the 49ers football team. But her mother Christine's preference for Katharine Lee Clark prevailed. Kat aced the tests for newborns that measured alertness and energy, but she also had spinal and within days underwent surgery to relieve pressure on her brain. She soon learned to walk, but used leg braces and crutches. Her father is a Vietnam War veteran who says he sucked up large amounts of the highly toxic component called Agent Orange while serving there in 1968. U.S. forces, as many of you will know, sprayed millions and millions of gallons of Agent Orange across wide swaths of that war-torn country. This chemical's legacy can still be seen there in birth defects and other illnesses, now afflicting many in the third generation to follow. And this legacy could also be seen in Kat's condition. Or at least that's what the Veterans Administration determined. They classified her along with several other children of Vietnam veterans as veterans themselves, affected by wartime injuries, and included them in VA health care. Whatever her physical challenges, by the age of 3, Kat was so articulate that when asked to describe her best friend at preschool, Kat named a child and said that while she liked her, the girl complained a lot about aches and pains. She was, in Kat's opinion, a hypochondriac. Her mother still remembers with astonishment Kat's properly pronounced and contextually correct use of that term, while still a toddler. She also spoke many words in Spanish as well as English in those early days, and even began to learn sign language. Her precocious mind and appealing personality soon made her something of a star. She was chosen as a March of Dimes poster child before she was 4, and served as one of the charity's main regional ambassadors for several years. This public role was made more exciting, at least for her parents, by the fact that they lived near Hollywood. Thus, for March of Dimes telephones and other events, Kat was brought together with glamorous celebrities from many fields. She met and hobnobbed with people like actor James Garner, baseball patriarch Tommy DeSorda, Los Angeles Mayor Tom Bradley, an Olympic athlete, a Special Olympics co-founder and organizer Rayford Johnson, among others. Her parents recall a moment at one event when Rayford Johnson, a black man who was well over 6 feet tall, scooped up Kat and held her close. Kat leaned her face down and nose to nose, said pertly and innocently to him, "Mr. Johnson, why are you so dark?" Johnson smiled and answered with good humor, but also calm profundity. "Kat, it's a long story." In elementary and junior high school, Kat is said to have been one of those very bright, but not necessarily straight A students. And when she finished junior high, her parents managed to enroll her in an upscale Catholic girls' prep school, Flint Ridge Sacred Heart Academy. Kat and her parents were not Catholics, so why the switch? Social mobility is easy enough to guess, but Kat always wondered if her outside the lines early teen romances, one with a boy of color, another with a girl of Asian background, might have had some influence on the decision. In any event, at Flintridge Academy, where students wore a uniform featuring plaid skirts, Kat was again bright and not necessarily tops in grades. She was also increasingly questioned on religious matters and orthodoxies, in this case, various Catholic doctrines and morals. But she was not entirely a rebel. Margot recalls that she had a former priest in religion classes who taught a version of liberation theology, emphasizing social justice over other worldly doctrines, and Kat lacked this. Once in junior high, her mother remembers, she and Kat watched an episode of one of their favorite TV series, Touched by an Angel. In this episode, Rhoda Downey, as the angel Monica, brought her offer of a miracle to a group of down-and-outers huddling in a seedy bar. At this point, Kat turned to her mother and asked what kind of miracle she would ask for if she could. Why, for you to be cured of spina bifida, Christine answered immediately. What about you, Kat? Her daughter did not hesitate. No more spina bifida would be good, she said, but I'd ask for a cure for AIDS or cancer. Meantime, Kat was active in the Presbyterian Church Youth Program. Her another project, she began to organize Bible studies. And when she graduated from the academy, Kat headed about 25 miles east of Flintridge to Azusa Pacific University, an evangelical Protestant school with roots in the Pentecostal movement. And if any of you are thinking you recall Azusa Pacific as the school that 2 years ago fired a longtime professor of philosophy and theology for coming out as transgender, you recall it correctly. When Kat enrolled there, though, more than a decade before that, she wanted, as Mike puts it, to learn to change the world in a diverse, interdenominational, and welcoming environment. But the welcoming and diversity of Azusa were strictly within their doctrinal parameters and behavioral regulation. By this time, Kat was well aware of being attracted to both men and women, though she was not interrogated about these experiences when she belonged to the school. Yet, Azusa frequently invited prominent evangelical revivalists, preachers, and healers to come and deliver their messages. And among them were some who claimed to be used of God to fix not only physical ills, but also such dreadful afflictions and temptations as same-sex attraction. Amid frequent and fervent altar calls to come forward for prayer and healing, Kat was brought on stage with braces and crutches, had hands laid upon her, and was later told, when her condition persisted, that she hadn't shown sufficient faith. More ominously, she also came forward in response to a call to those with unnatural affections. And when these two resisted healing, she was then put through some of the so-called escape programs, which have rightly come to be condemned as abusive and reversibly harmful to her. Difficult and dangerous, even as some of these experiences were, there were compensations. Early in her third year, she met a student who had come to Azusa from North Carolina to study for the ministry, one Margot. The story goes that on the Labor Day weekend in September of 2002, a mutual friend invited each of them separately to join him in driving some distance to spend an evening in company with another young woman that the driver was very interested in. I think the technical term for this is he fixed them up. Margot was tabbed as navigator for this trip. This, he says, was a bad idea from the jump. And his directional shortcomings were compounded by the fact that he and Kat, once introduced, fell to talking nonstop and with much animated pleasure. The short-term effect of this was that they and their friends took the roads less traveled and ended up far away from their intended destination. The longer-term effect was even more dramatic. Kat and Micah kept kept talking and were together almost every day thereafter. By late that winter, they began planning to get married. This deed was accomplished on August 24th, 2003, on the heat-swept mountaintop. And that's Cheryl Rogers to do that.
Good morning. My name is Cheryl Rogers. And now we come to the North Carolina side of Kat and Mike's journey. I brought with me two of my sisters, Jolanta Mintz and Tiffany Waller. Not just as support, but as the love that we have for Kat. Bear with me, please. Soon Kat became pregnant but suffered miscarriage and was told that future pregnancies would not be healthy. The traumatic physical and emotional impact of this loss was very difficult for Kat, and she withdrew from classes at as did Michael. They moved inland east of Los Angeles, where they soon came into contact with the Metropolitan Community Church congregation through a lesbian couple they had become friends with. These relationships evolved into a new kind of experience of learning and acceptance for them, especially Micah, who was serving as a circuit riding assistant minister for a small evangelical association. The association was preaching all around, but often shared the same shortcomings in practice as Kat's college. The tension between word and deed came to a head when a transgender woman asked to come to church with Micah and was treated as a kind of leper, needing to adhere to a special set of rules for those people. When Micah learned this, he took a day to pray over the matter, then resigned. This parting was also traumatic. People they had respected told Kat and Micah they were bound for hell. But it also led to a closer bond. Kat shared with Micah about her earlier female relationships, something she had been reluctant to do before for fear he might leave her. They returned to attending the MCC congregation, but Kat wanted to start a church plant. We all know how Kat is. Orientated to acceptance, affirmation of both LGBT and people with disabilities. She made her first effort at it, called Safe Haven Community Church, in a nearby park. Kat and Mike, it was anywhere we could find to go. They also considered resuming studies at Azusa's why can't I say that? University. But now Kat was out and self-affirming, so the school was unable to accept her. As their funds ran low and the Safe Haven group struggled, Micah's brother in Durham, North Carolina offered to take them in, and they accepted, moving east in late 2005. Soon they saw an opportunity for ministry in Lumberton and Fayetteville. I'm from Lumberton, these ladies are from Fayetteville. And Kat proved to be an unstoppable church planter. In Lumberton, she organized an LGBT and disabled-friendly group called the Church of the Painted Sky. I never could figure out where y'all got that one from. The group met for several years, defying homophobic harassment in a very conservative setting. If you don't know Lumberton, folks, ask me about it. In Lumberton, they lived near a trailer park, populated by people of modest circumstances. Kat made friends with many residents there, including a woman named Lori and her daughter, Christy. One day in late 2006 or 7, Christy knocked at the door to say a dying dog had been abandoned nearby. The animal was bloody, with cuts around its neck and ears. years, and so weak it couldn't stand up. What had happened? In our area around long-term dog fighting is a widely practice, and it appeared the dog had been bred to fight, but refused to do so. Hence the abuse and abandonment. We can't keep it, the neighbor explained. The landlord won't stand for it. But he's so sweet. Will you take him in? Kat had already purchased a young German Shepherd, hoping to train him as a service dog, and their trailer was small. But she took him the nearly comatose canine anyway. Among their other neighbors was an Iraq family, refugees from the wars there. They were devout Muslims, and the woman of the house was studying to become a veterinary technician. Hearing of Kat's new dog in its desperate condition, she came by and spent many hours helping, saving its life and nursing it back to health, all while steadfastly refusing any payment. Kat often told this story in her sermons, or when she heard other so-called Christians bashing Muslims. Here was Muslims practicing their faith as kindness. Kat said, and providing a more representative example of it, that the violent stereotypes fed to the American public day after day. Thus arrived in their lives the dogs many of us have come to know as Isaiah, or Zeze as Kat called him. As Isaiah recovered, a surprising pattern developed. The German Shepherd, which Kat was working to train, paid no attention to the commands. She repeated and repeated. But soon Isaiah did start to follow them, unbidden, and began to take up the role of the shepherd so adamantly refused. Before long, the shepherd had been passed on to a new home, and Isaiah had found a new family in which he had a vital place. In 2011, Micah enrolled in seminary at Campbell University. That same year, Kat started another LGBT and disabled-friendly church plant near Fort Bragg. Many of its first attenders, who were in the military, were still closeted and cautious. But its possibilities seemed to expand when the much-despised homophobic "don't ask, don't tell" policy of the military was replaced that September. The group was soon named Diversity in Faith. I love that one. When the youth attending the services told Kat of being bullied, she responded by starting a ministry, Operation Bullying, which took up work against bullying in addition to her other projects. I want to thank you folks for allowing us to share with you today. And I'll turn it on now to Reverend Margot Pickett.
Good morning. Thank you to Micah for inviting me to read and to Chuck for writing this beautiful narrative. I'm the director of the Pastoral Leadership Development Program in which Kat was enrolled in order to get full ordained standing in the United Church of Christ. As you can imagine, she was one of the brightest stars of the program, and she did have top grades. I picked up in 2012 to 13 when Kat and Micah hosted an exchange student from Kenya named Stella, who also had spina bifida. Kat bonded strongly with Stella and stayed in touch with her after she returned to Africa. During that time, however, Kat suffered an event, a mini stroke, which left her laid up for a week, suffering frequent blinding headaches. Her doctors were never able to determine the actual cause of the event and said the headaches were migraines. As Micah completed his seminary studies, he focused on chaplaincy work and found a residency at the University of North Carolina for 2013 to 14. He took an apartment nearby and returned to Fayetteville for weekends. Kat acted as pastor for Diversity in Faith in Fayetteville, organized disability expos there 2 years running, and continued the ministry of Operation Bullywhorn. However, Kat's physical condition was deteriorating. Where she had been able to walk with leg braces and crutches, she became less able to use her legs and depended more on a chair and a scooter. Then, just before Christmas of 2013, Kat had another event, which was major. For a period, she couldn't decipher words on the page, or keep her balance, or even move her legs. This time, her doctor told her she could not continue living at a distance from Micah for most of the week. So she reluctantly gave up her pastoral work with diversity and faith and left Fager. She and Micah found an apartment in Carver. They also sought medical specialists who could explain what her pre-Christmas event meant and what the prognosis was. The process took months, during which Kat continued to have episodes where for periods of time she could neither see nor hear and suffered continued shattering headaches. Finally, in the summer of 2014, a doctor gave her a name for it. She had developed an Arnold-Chiari formation. That is a condition where part of the cerebellum begins to sink into the spinal cavity. Needless to say, it's bad. Surgery was possible, the doctor explained, but it was dangerous and it had severe side effects, and was unlikely to cure the condition in any case. During this time, Kat told Micah she hoped that if her condition ever became grave, that she hoped and prayed not to spend her last days hooked up to machines and in a stupor or coma. And Micah admits that each morning during those months, he started by listening to make sure Kat was still breathing. Yet much of the time she masked her chronic pain, or rather overlaid it, pushed it aside with her continued enthusiasm for life, her bright smile, and her compassion for others. And she kept extremely busy. Kat and Micah soon made their way to the United Church of Chapel Hill, and here they found a congregation committed to the same values they had worked and witnessed and suffered for. Micah soon switched his ministerial affiliation to the United Church of Christ, and Kat began a parallel process by enrolling in the Pastoral Leadership Development Program. Before long, Kat became active teaching Sunday school at UCCH. She also organized a disability ministry, restarted Operation Bullywhorn, and took part in an annual statewide conference on women preaching. The conference was good, she thought, but the event lacked attention to disability issues. So she joined the planning committee for the next one, set for October 22nd, 2015. In the summer of 2015, Kat and Micah visited Virginia Beach, where Kat was amazed to find a public park that was, as its sign said, designed for every body, accessible throughout. She dreamed of creating such a playground here at United Church in Chapel Hill. In October, they also traveled to Glowing Rock for the UCC annual church retreat, where she thrilled to the beauty of the Smoky Mountains. Good as these were, the Women's Preaching Conference on Thursday, October 22nd, was an especial delight. On the way home, Kat raved about it to Micah all the way and said she was on cloud nine. And then she went happily to sleep. The next morning when Micah listened for her breathing, it wasn't there. It appears she had suffered a ruptured brain aneurysm. Now her life as a chronology may be finished. But again, to cite the Quaker phrase, her life continues to preach. Today, perhaps more boldly.